Welcome from wherever you are logging into. Right now, we are becoming a living organism that shares a symbiotic relationship with larger ecosystems. From a congregational lens, we are co creating threads of purpose, meaning, and life that interconnects us in our similarities as well as differences. You who has decided to gather with us either live, by listening to the recording, or any other form of engagement, you are welcome here. This particular congregation provides you a glimpse if you go to the website that states the following: we don't have all the answers, and frankly, we do not think anybody does. That's why we focus on a continuing search for truth and goodness, and openly embrace all opinions, all beliefs, and all lifestyles. We gain strength in our diversity and seek to make a world a better place together. The words that I will share today with you who are listening comes from my own meditation and reflections as I ponder empowering meaningful intergenerational relations. As a chaplain, I see my role and my work as a cultural broker, as somebody who gains training from regular interactions with individuals, systems, and societies. We are exposed and navigate liminal spaces between religion, spirituality, ethics, systems of meaning, and organizations. All of them found in encounter. Furthermore, I have come to understand that chaplains provide essential human interaction, emotional and spiritual direction, as well as people that are trained to understand the developing and deeper self understanding and self awareness that is so urgently needed within our societies. We create spaces where both culture, religious, and philosophical orientations meet in order to practice and bring forth an environment where all the components that makes us human can be addressed to some degree. This means that there is an intentionality to involve the whole person, and in that process positively impact our society through acts of justice, compassion, and solidarity. However, what does all of this has to do with empowering meaningful intergenerational relations? As we begin to potentially envision coming back in person from a congregational lens, creating, recreating, and embodying hybrid spaces. We are aiming to some extent to reopen many habitats in our upcoming weeks. In other words, it means that we are navigating meaning making, community, and power. Power, as defined by Alicia Garza, the founder of the International Black Lives Matter movement, defines it as the following: is the ability to shape the story of who we are and who we are or who we can be together. My apologies. That is such a powerful statement. It is bringing our consciousness and our awareness that in all of the different ecosystems, relationships, encounters, and work that we do either within a congregational setting, out in the world, even within our family systems, we are always leveraging power. We are the ones to a broader or lesser degree that defines and shapes what stories are told, who are seen, whom are centered, who are visualized, and who have meaning, who holds meaning making processes, and to some extent, what is of value to us. Let's sit with that for a few minutes. Who holds value? Recent statistics that have been done by the Pew Study Centers highlight that there has been a shift in terms of denominational, spiritual, or faith affiliation, particularly from what are considered now millennials and younger generations in terms of how they relate to traditional religious spiritual spaces. And part of the study highlights that youth, young adults, are now reclaiming concepts around spirituality. Or more colloquially speaking, I could define myself if I was a nun as spiritual but not religious. However, what do we do with data like that? What is our response? What is our action to concepts like these? Well, in my opinion and experience, that's where empowerment comes in. These demographics, human beings, young adults, are providing answers of their lived reality and experiences. They are giving us a glimpse of what it is that might be missing within our congregational denominational spaces, that is not providing the meaning, the purpose, or the mission that is centered within their immediate needs. Audre Lorde has the following quote: within the interdependence of mutual, non dominant differences lies that security which enables us to descend into the chaos of knowledge and return with true vision of our future, along with the concomitant power to affect those changes which can bring that future into being. Difference is that raw and powerful connection from which our personal power is forged. This particular quote comes from the work of the Master's Tool. Here, Audre Lorde, somewhat similarly to Garza, is providing us a framework of reference to understand how is it that we can navigate knowledge in order to create visions of the future. And when we talk about future, we must understand that that means that we must engage the past, the present, and the future, thus realizing or materializing intergenerational relations. It means that it doesn't matter how old we are, where or when we were necessarily born, our geographical, cultural repertoire, we are always engaging in relations with others. Through the power of language, meaning making, symbols, we engage. We define and we provide vehicles of communication that might or might not be inclusive, might or might not be meaningful to the listener, or it might not be meaningful to a particular set of groups within our ecosystems. However, it is within this tension, it is within this exchange that we begin to understand how can we adapt in order to empower the most amount of people within our ecosystem. It means that we cannot be afraid of engaging in brave conversations. Because if it is our goal to empower meaningful intergenerational relations, it means that there is a dimension of uncertainty, or said in other words, there is a decentering of mastery, which means that I do not know everything, that I might not necessarily understand the parlance, vocabulary, or colloquialisms that, let's be honest, younger generations might be sharing and communicating with. But that should not be an impediment to wanting to create a space where we can all be held, where we can all be nurtured through the different nutrients, resources, and shared power in order to be able to create an expansive meaning making process that will allow us to flourish and bloom. Many traditional spaces continue to struggle with questions like these. How do we bring younger people into our congregation? How do we bring them to our programs? Heck, for them to sit for 30 minutes in our pew, it begins with exploring where do we stand in relationship to. Without a doubt, that can create in us a sense of fear, uncertainty, doubt of our capacity to relate. But nonetheless, this is the challenge of human relations. This is the ability in which we as congregations can begin to envision that it is not just passing the baton along when we feel tired or don't have the energy, but it means that we recognize, understand, and honor that our youth, our young adults, already are occupying spaces of service, power, and community, even if we recognize it or not. Even if it is happening in our particular space, ecosystem, or community. However, if we are honest, this global pandemic has pushed us to imagine and reimagine how we build community, how we engage those that do not necessarily think, act, or behave the way we do. It has lowered the barriers of division to the extent that anybody who has access to Wi Fi or a computer might be able to connect into our spaces. So I ask you, How are you empowering youth, young adults, or more holistically speaking, intergenerational relations?